2001 Dodge Dakota RT. Proof that everyone loves a good muscle truck. Alright, right from the beginning, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. This 2001 Dodge Dakota RT has had an engine swap. Originally, RT Dakotas had the largest Mopar V8 at the time, the 5.9-liter Magnum V8. As much as a torque monster this was in the Dakota's lighter platform over the larger Ram, it was still an ancient engine compared to the competition, and its origins in the LA engine line trace all the way back to 1964. This particular truck has a 2009 5.7-liter Hemi V8 from a wrecked Durango swapped in, which happens to be the second generation of the reborn Hemi with its variable camshaft timing and other updates. But even with this engine and the mods that owner has made to it, it still fits with the original vibe of this truck. A big old V8 slapped in an otherwise unassuming mid-sized pickup. Sure, it may be dumb, but stomp on that loud pedal, and it's all the justification you need for this truck. Anyways, back to your regularly scheduled Wookie. If you want to know why we don't have compact pickups now, and almost entirely replaced by the mid-size truck market in this modern day and age, well, you can blame Dodge for that. Before the Dakota was introduced for the 1987 model year, Dodge sold a captive import compact pickup based on Mitsubishi's L200, later Mighty Max pickup. This was actually quite common for Chrysler in the 70s and early 80s, as this partnership allowed Chrysler to sell Japanese imports directly to consumers that take on the likes of Honda and Toyota themselves. But as the 1980s went on, Chrysler actually needed their own designs, especially with Mitsubishi officially entering the American market in 1983. The Ram 50 was a fine truck, but it was unapologetically a Mitsubishi Mighty Max. Dodge saw an opportunity. Ford and Chevrolet were selling their own compact trucks with their own designs separate from earlier captive import attempts, like the Ranger and the S10, but they sat proudly on that exploding compact truck segment. Like the minivan earlier, Dodge saw an opportunity to slot a truck in between the compact Ram 50 and the full-size WD series Rams. So for 1987, Dodge introduced the Dakota, a proper mid-size offering, with more interior space and payload over its Ram 50 little brother, but offering a more manageable package for those not wanting to delve deep into the full-size truck ownership. The Goldilocks solution for truck ownership. But Dodge wouldn't be content with creating a new segment. No, they wanted this new segment to be fun. And boy, that first-generation Dakota had some fun offerings. 1989 saw the introduction of a Shelby variant that installed a 5.2-liter LA V8 into the previously unassuming Dakota, and it would spawn the V8 being a continuous option for the Dakota starting in 1991 until its eventual death in 2011. And a freaking convertible offering from ASC because it was the 1980s and cocaine was a hell of a drug. But as the first generation Dakota went on, Dodge began offering more and more options and making the Dakota an early adapter of trucks being personalized expressions of their owners from the factory. So with the success of the Dakota, it would lead to the death of the Ram 50 in 1994, which was probably for the best. The Ram 50 was being outclassed by its growing competition, and with the introduction of the Dakota, it was no longer a product that was felt as something that was justified in Dodge's lineup. But more importantly, a second-generation Dakota would be introduced in 1997, and would proudly wear the semi-truck-inspired face that the second-gen Ram would rock the truck world with 3 years earlier. I actually think the second-gen Dakota's styling is much more refined compared to the larger Ram of that era. But it helped that it had 3 additional years to iron out the design over the Ram. The Ram revolutionized the pickup truck, but the Dakota would refine its look. Underneath it was largely the same, but why change what had proven to be a winning recipe? The V8 would be backed as a class-only option, but Dodge would crank it up with the RT model, which, as I mentioned before, would put the 5.9-liter, that's 360 cubic inches of America V8, under the hood and lower the truck 1 inch. The Magnum would produce 250 horsepower and 345 foot-pounds of torque from the factory, which wasn't bad for 2001, and it far outperformed competing midsize and compact offerings in both power numbers and grin-inducing noises at the time. Now, this is where the story of this particular 2001 Dodge Dakota RT takes a turn, because of course it's modified a good bit. That originally wasn't going to be the case for this truck. The owner, Greg, is more known for his Hellcat-swapped second-gen Dakota that's currently on the back burner due to his recent move to the Carolinas and life as a whole. But this truck was simply going to be Hemi-Swapped and a quick flip as he got the truck as a roller for dirt cheap from a coworker who had given up the project due to a growing family. At the time, he saw this as an opportunity to put another 5.9 in it and flip it for cheap. But his wife absolutely loved the blue on the truck and didn't want to see it gone so quickly. So he decided on a Hemi-Swapped instead. Originally, he wanted just to put a stock junkyard Hemi in it just to do an update on the Dakota RT formula with a much more modern engine with a large aftermarket. But when he was installing the transmission, he broke an ear off the block, which necessitated a whole new block. Then upon break-in, the cam wiped, so he'd install a Flying Ryan camshaft, and before he knew it, the upgrade creep set in, and before he knew it, the very Dakota you see here today was built. At the time, Greg was working for Holley, so he was able to get a bunch of off-the-shelf parts for cheap. Holley Terminator X EFI and a digital dash, Willwood front brakes, a built 46RE transmission, HRE Dodge Viper wheels, and a Beltec lowering kit that lowered it an additional 2 inches from the original RT factory lowering. It's still a working project. The tune isn't finalized, so while the Dakota makes plenty of noises and has an estimated 475 to 500 horsepower when tuned properly, it has a hesitation upon acceleration at the moment. It currently has an AC delete, which, while fine in Kentucky when he built the truck, he's regretted since moving down to South Carolina. Especially on a day like the day we filmed it when it was 97 degrees Fahrenheit out. But unlike his Hellcat race truck, he can run this on 93 pump gas, and he can use it as a normal street toy. Sure, it handles like a truck, but that's because it is. You don't buy or build a muscle truck for canyon carving or road racing. No, a muscle truck is best for being an obnoxious street toy. Stomp on the throttle, and the Hemi rips and snorts, and the driver and passenger are reverted to schoolboy giggling in glee. That's the fun of a muscle or street truck. And unfortunately, they're not really something you see from manufacturers today. Up until the 2008 recession, street trucks and muscle trucks had been a fun option for the truck buyer. Yeah, a lifted truck with an off-road package was available too, but there was also something to be said about a short box single cab truck that was slightly lowered and had a rumbling V8 under the hood. Dodge would ultimately take this concept to its ultimate conclusion by slapping the Viper's V10 under the hood of a Ram in the mid-aughts. But muscle trucks would die a quiet death with the 2008 recession, and gas-guzzling pickups with no real practicality other than making noise on the street were quietly shown the door. And when Ford would launch the Raptor in 2010, the muscle truck's fate was sealed. With the Raptor, here was a truck with a real off-roading pedigree, a truck bred for Baja, and every truck manufacturer would focus on their enthusiast off-road being an off-roader instead. Dodge was already building the trail-minded Power Wagon with its heavy-duty trucks, but the half-ton would eventually get the Rebel package, before the Raptor slaying TRX would launch in 2021. I like a good off-roader. I grew up in square-body Chevys and Geo-Trackers bouncing through the woods, but my rose-colored nostalgia glasses will still be drawn to a muscle truck. They have a street presence that isn't intimidating like a lifted truck. Unlike most lifted trucks where their 4x4 potential is wasted with their exclusive street use and often unpractical lifts and low-profile tires and big wheels, a muscle truck was something for the street from the start. Were they kinda dumb and outclassed by a car in almost every way? Yes, but sometimes dumb is all the fun you could need. Gotta watch myself on my soapbox here, or I'll start arguing that a muscle truck is twice the truck that every squatted truck in the South would ever be, but fight me, truck nerds. Anyways, back on topic. The second-gen Dakota itself would be replaced in 2005 with the third generation, but would suffer from a lot of Daimler Chrysler designs of the mid-aughts and become a bloated mess of itself. They're not terrible per se, but they lack the tighter styling of the previous Dakotas. The large overhangs made them unpopular choices for off-roaders, and the style and mid-aughts Chrysler build quality drove buyers deep into the arms of Toyota and Nissan, whom themselves launched redesigned mid-sized competitors at the same time that focused on everything good about mid-sized pickup trucks. You can see how long those designs sold compared to everything else in the class. And on top of the bloated design, the Dakota lost options, which were becoming something truck buyers were pushing for more and more of. The single cab was gone, as well as the larger V8 options. The RT was no longer a muscle truck performance package. Now it was simply a cosmetic appearance package. While its platform mate Durango SUV would get the new Hemi V8, the Dakota wouldn't. Instead, the mid-level 4.7-liter PowerTech V8 was now becoming the top engine. The PowerTech wasn't a bad engine, but it definitely was the old Magnum and wasn't even a blip compared to the hot new Hemi and other Dodge models at the time. Sales slid mightily for the Dakota, as buyers flocked towards Nissans and Toyotas, as they were much better buys and were much more quality products, and sales absolutely cratered during the recession. The Dakota would barely limp into the Dodge's truck division being rebranded as Ram, before bowing out altogether in 2011. And since, it's been a constant tease of revivals like the Dakota and Ranger did. But as of 2023, still nothing. Even with this truck's engine swap, the 2001 Dodge Dakota RT is a snapshot into a different time of enthusiast truck ownership. Off-road packages were in their infancy and was still mainly bought by actual off-road enthusiasts, instead of being used as middle-class suburban status symbols. As much as those peacocking men and their wannabe Morgan Wallen mullets claim that they aren't and that they actually use them like men, but sure, whatever floats your goat. The Dakota RT was a snapshot into the era where the muscle truck was still readily available at your dealer. Hot colors, single cab, short box, and a big motor. In hindsight, less practical than what you see on dealer lots today, but in actuality, way better equipped to rip around the streets than a lifted truck with a shady lift, agonizing wheel spacers, and low-profile tires. No, a muscle truck achieves what those fail to do without making yourself look like a total dildo. Make all the noise you want. The comps won't be on you like flies to honey like with those other trucks. 2001 Dodge Dakota RT. Stomp on that throttle and unleash your inner child. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you once again for watching another episode of Wookie Drives. Huge shout out to Greg of Beaufort, South Carolina for letting me drive his quote-unquote fun Dakota for this episode. I'll be sure to link Greg's Instagram in the description of this video. If you have a car or truck you'd like to see on the show and happen to be in the Charlotte or Mooresville, North Carolina area, email me a submission of your car to wookiedrives@gmail.com. That's right, submit your car to wookiedrives@gmail.com. That's wookiedrives@gmail.com. Don't forget the video like, drop a comment with some feedback. Any sort of interaction with this video really helps small channels like mine grow in the algorithm. Share with all your Hemi-Swapped Dodge Dakota friends. And finally, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications for more Wookie Drives like these. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.
You told us you wanted a truck with more playful performance. So for the all-new Dodge Dakota, our engineers matched quick ratio steering with a precision-tuned suspension, making it a blast to drive. Now, when Dakota responds precisely to your input, you'll know it's because we did too. The new Dodge Dakota. It's full of surprises.